UK National Education Union and EU National Officer, dear Louise Regan. Thanks for joining us today.
No problem. It's very good to be here.
Thank you, dear Louise. As you know, the elections are coming in Turkey, and I would like you to comment on how would you find the Erdogan and AKP government last 20 years. They are in the government in Turkey, considering the economic situation right now, democracy and the rule of law, etc. in Turkey. How would you like to comment on that first?
I mean, I think we're all very clear within our union and many of us in the UK that this is an unacceptable situation for the people there. It's been a very oppressive government that has limited workers' rights, limited women's rights, particularly, but that has prevented people from having a democratic ability to speak out about the situation. And we, as a union, believe in democracy. We believe that people have the right to speak freely about their concerns. And we think that this government has been particularly harsh, particularly around education workers, those people that are educating about the situation, but also against journalists who are trying to tell the world what is happening to people there. So as a union, we stand in solidarity with those people that have tried to speak out against what is happening and to defend their right to democracy.
Thank you. Secondly, how important is the success of the HDP and Green Left Party on upcoming elections in Turkey? As you know, the HDP is getting into the elections with Green Left Party, as there is a risk for HDP to be closed down by Turkish state, basically. So, how do you think also these elections will be held in the democratic atmosphere as well? And in that atmosphere, how important is the success of the Green Left Party? Very shortly.
I mean, I think that a change to the rule in Turkey is essential, given what I've already said about the attacks on workers and people speaking out and that right to democracy. I think there are huge concerns about whether these elections will be held in a free and just way. And we, as the global community, as the international community, have to think about what we can do in terms of defending that and supporting that and standing in solidarity with people. I think having an election where people are elected who are speaking out against the regime and who want to form a government that will give people freedom, will give them democracy and rights, is essential. And I think as an international community, we have a duty to stand with people who are fighting for that. Well, I think we have to have, I mean, at the moment, there seems to be a position where there has been an alliance formed that has potential to defeat the government. Whether that gives you everything you want is something for the people on the ground to say. But equally, we have to have a position where we have a more democratic government that we can work with and that will listen to people on the ground, to workers, and particularly to women. For me, I'm very concerned about the situation for women in Turkey. So anything that we can do to overturn a government that has become so oppressive is essential.
You mentioned a very critical topic. I would like to ask that as well, just to underline it. You evaluate the situation in Turkey in the woman's perspective as well. So, could you please tell us a little more about how would you like to comment on how should the women come together during this period of elections and support the Green Left Party, as Green Left Party is supporting the woman's struggle as well. So how would you like to underline that?
I mean, I think the situation for women has become horrendous. You know, in terms of their removal of their rights, their freedom to speak out, their freedom to bodily autonomy, their freedom to do as they wish to do for education, for girls and women. All of those things are basic human rights for me as a trade unionist. And I think that as women, we have to stand together and in solidarity with each other to oppose any government or any system that is oppressing women. And that isn't to say that women don't have a right to their own choice, but at the moment we don't have that as a position in Turkey. The position is imposed upon women and girls, and that is unacceptable. So women and girls should be allowed to freely choose what they want to do, where they want to go, what education system they want, and they should be equally represented within any governmental system, and also within any system within the community that they exist in. And we should be fighting for their rights equally alongside, you know, brothers who stand in solidarity with them.
So could you please get your solidarity message for the HDP and Green Left Party as well for the upcoming elections in Turkey?
I mean, obviously, as a trade unionist and as a worker here, we want to support those left-wing coalitions that are fighting for workers' rights, for women's rights. But also, we saw recently during the earthquake the absolute disregard for members of the public, for workers, a complete letdown really by the government, the controlling government, for people and their right to life. And I think we need a government in Turkey that is going to fight for people that are working on the ground and fight for workers and their rights and defend them. So I would absolutely support that coalition moving forward.
Thank you. Once we find you, as you are a very important name, I would like to ask you the situation about Mr. Öcalan as well. Mr. Öcalan is under isolation, and that isolation is still continues. Last 2 years, the family, the lawyers, and his friends hasn't been able to see him. So, what is your call to responsible organizations of EU human rights or the law institutions as well as to Turkey to break the isolation?
I mean, the isolation of Öcalan is completely unacceptable. This has gone on, as you say, for a significant amount of time. It is completely against any human rights, in my opinion. You know, people should have access to their legal support. They should have access to family and reasonable rights to see people that support them. And I would call on any incoming government to ensure that that right was given immediately, and that this unacceptable situation was ended. Really, I mean, this has been. I've spoken about this many times. It's an unacceptable situation. It's complete abuse of human rights. It's unacceptable, and it is something that needs to be ended.
Dear Louise Regan, UK National Education Union, NEU, thanks for joining us and thank you for your valuable comments today.
No problem. Thank you very much, Aaron.
Thank you.